Have you heard of the company Hugging Face? We'll go through who they are today. Also, a new AI programming language and a cybersecurity company to round it out. So back to Hugging Face. Hugging Face has received $235 million in a Series D round, valuing them at $4.5 billion. So Hugging Face is essentially like the watering hole of the AI development world. Let's jump in and have a look at what they do, because it takes a bit of visuals to explain. So Hugging Face talk about they're the AI community and building this community around AI development and the frameworks and everything. Let's have a little look through their websites. There's a number of different areas that sort of start to, you can start to understand what I mean about that watering hole. So imagine you're a developer and you want to start building an AI application. You want to start exploring the different models that are available, the different things that are going to help you build that. You want to do research around that. You want to test it. You want to get feedback from the community. Where do you go to do all that? Well, this is where it is. So let's jump through and have a quick look, okay? So we've got models. That's the first part. This is all around your AI models. There is over 300,000 AI models on Hugging Face, okay? So, and they range from, text to video, image analysis, conversational AI like ChatGPT. There's hundreds of thousands of these things here, all different styles and ways of doing it, strengths, weaknesses of them. And it's pretty straightforward to use, right? So you're looking for an image to text. We click on that. These are all the different image to text models, 232 of them. They all offer different things as well. The next component of Hugging Face is the data sets. Now, obviously, AI needs a lot of data to learn and do inferences from. So this is where there's publicly available data sets here for you to use when training your AI models. Again, really straightforward. Click through the different sort of data sets you can choose from. And if you jump into these, I don't know what this one will do, but if you jump into these, some of these can be huge, or they can reference you back to sort of like an area that they're hosted in externally to Hugging Face. You jump into one. Here's one. It's called James. I like that. And it gives you a bit of an idea around what photos are included here. So this data set has 25,000 images available for it through it. So there's almost 60,000 different data sets available for people to use to train their AI models. The next area is spaces. So spaces is like applications that have already been built by people, and it gives you a bit of an idea around how to use the models and the data sets to create an AI application. And there's, people have built anything you can imagine under this, and there's lots of different versions of anything you can imagine under here. Then we move on to solutions. So solutions is where Hugging Face starts to commercialize their offering. So if you're an enterprise or a company or an organization looking to start to use, Hugging Face is, your developers are starting to use it more and more on a daily basis. There's a number of different ways that Hugging Face commercialize their thing. One is through their enterprise hub. So you get sort of like enterprise capability, enterprise development support, enterprise features for developers. The next one is inference endpoints. This is around really deploying your models onto infrastructure for you to start, putting it into production or developing on it. So it goes through all of those, what endpoints are available and how to do that. So it starts to talk a bit about those inference endpoints as low, standard sort of per hour pricing. A few prices there for the pro or the enterprise sort of versions of Hugging Face. Now, to give you an indication of the power of this platform, why they received $235 million in a funding round and valued at $4.5 billion. There's a lot of similarities here between Hugging Face and GitHub. Now, GitHub was bought by Microsoft for $7.5 billion in 2018. Let me show you this. This is a huge community. Okay, let's go to organizations. These are all the organizations that are on Hugging Face. There's over 50,000 of them. Let's have a look at one. Let's have a look at Microsoft, okay? Microsoft has 764 people with user accounts on Hugging Face that are Microsoft people. They've got 9 spaces, so they've built 9 different applications as examples of how to use models and data. Microsoft has released 252 models on Hugging Face for people to use and develop with, and they've released 5 data sets as well. There is over 50,000 of these organizations. Can you imagine the quantity and the community that sort of building up around this stuff? It's amazing. Anyway, so I recommend jumping into Hugging Face, having a quick look around. It's a fairly technical kind of website. It's a technical community. So it may not make sense to a lot of people. Most of it doesn't make sense to me, but it is still interesting to have a little play around and understand where these things are going and how the communities around AI are building and collaborating as well. Anyway, huge round, huge valuation. Is Microsoft going to buy them next? I'm sure there'll be some types of bidding wars coming in the future. Next one today is another huge AI round with $100 million for a Series A for Modular. Now, that's a huge round, and I think it becomes a bit evident as to why they've received so much money when you start to look at their vision, and we'll jump in and have a look at, sort of what they're doing and where they're going. It's quite interesting. So how I understand what Modular is trying to do is build an abstraction layer for developers to build on any infrastructure or any framework when they're building their AI applications. Now, this is really important because, as you can understand, there are so many different models out there. We've just seen that. There are a lot of different frameworks and infrastructure, and these are constantly changing and developing. This is a really quickly developing area of technology. And if you're building an application and you're developing on that and you're having to align to a specific architecture, that is a huge decision to make. Think about the decisions around and the costs of resources, of time, effort, physical infrastructure that you may have to choose when you're developing these environments. And if you have to replicate that or it changes in some way, it can be hugely expensive. So what Modular are proposing is that their programming language, which apparently is going to be released in September, will allow developers to build once and with very little changes to the code, be able to deploy in all these different infrastructure and on all these different frameworks. You think about the time savings and cost savings that would be associated with that. Not to mention the speed to market that these developers will be able to get their products out there. So let's jump in and have a quick look at their website to see what we can find and a bit more around what they're doing. So first off, it talks about how it's going to be released in, their programming language called Mojo is going to be released in September. Fairly technical website. It's, as you'd expect. So they're talking a lot about the unification, the simplicity of it, similarities and ease of use like Python. Really pushing that this should be the standard for AI developers, or will be the standard for AI developers. So jumping through the website, it really talks to the speed, but it also talks a lot about the cost savings as well. A lot of comparisons on the website between other inference engines like TensorFlow and PyTorch. I don't really understand how all of these things particularly work, or how they would get to these different speeds and feeds and things. But it sounds good. I'm sure the AI developers, all the ones I know, would think this is good. So if we keep sort of moving through, it also is pushing for the hardware developers. So your NVIDIAs, your Intels, your AMDs, and it's trying to lure these in. And we know that there's been a whole bunch of investment in these sort of new age infrastructure builders, so the hardware builders and the chip builders that are building, specifically focusing on the hardware requirements around AI. So it's trying to lure those in, create that ecosystem and that standard platform for development. So I can't see any commercials around this yet. It'll be interesting to see where they go with it, whether they'll provide sort of like an enterprise support version or maybe a development platform. All to be seen. It's kind of tricky to see the angle, but if they can get this getting used as a standard development framework for AI, they'll have lots of options for commercialization. Anyway, their flagship programming language, Mojo, will be released in September. Anyway, the last one today is a company called Grip Security, who received $41 million in a Series B. So this is another shadow IT security company. We saw a couple of these a few weeks back with Zluri and Savvy receiving funding in the same week. So let's have a little look at these guys. Grip Security is another Israeli-founded cybersecurity company. It's amazing to see how many Israeli cybersecurity companies are getting built and getting funding and releasing. There must be an amazing ecosystem developing there, really ramped up in the last few years, and some heavyweights of the industry now coming out of Israel, all with Israeli founders. So let's jump into their website. Now, the first thing when I jump on here, it's like it tells me exactly what it does. I love this sort of 4-sentence statement. Boom, boom, boom. This is what we do. None of that fuzzy wordy kind of stuff that is sort of like, we're doing this and all this wonderful stuff to change the world. It's like, this is exactly what we do. So scrolling down a little bit. Now have a look at this. This is a cool demo, all right? So click here to begin. Automatically discover new and existing SaaS and cloud accounts. Okay, yep, I understand that. Loving the user interface. It's taking me through exactly what everything does. Boom, boom, boom. How easy is that? It just takes me through everything. I can check out the different types. So this is Discover Shadow, Prioritize SaaS Risk, Secure SaaS, or Orchestrate SaaS Security. And it's got little different demos for each sort of use case. Yep, understood, cool. How good's that? That's really cool. Love that way. Really gives me an indication of sort of how I'm going to use the application and the value I get as a user straight away. Now, running through this website, I can't seem to see any pricing. And it kind of surprises me that a company like this doesn't have any pricing available. I would imagine a company like this would be a really good candidate for product-led growth. Okay, imagine there's a pricing page. Really simple, get started now, $50 a month, and you get 10, 20 users that you can start to monitor their SaaS usage on. Okay, I'll sign up to that. I'll deploy it to the 10, 20 users that I'd like to do that with. Okay, that's really good. Get limited features, understand exactly sort of how it operates, and I'm seeing the value. So I deploy it to those users, getting to that value really, really quickly. And then I start to need some more features, and I wanted to deploy it out to more users. All of a sudden, I'm rolling this out. If I've got 300, 400 users, I'm rolling this out to them. I'm using all those additional features, and I'm paying a few $1,000s a month, and I'm getting all the value, and it's a great deal for both of us. Ideal candidate for product-led growth. I'm not sure why they haven't. I suppose there's a little bit of things you have to get set up for that, like at a company level to do that. But I think these types of SaaS security and shadow IT companies are really good candidates for product-led growth. I'm not sure why they aren't going down that pathway. Anyway, so that's Grip Security. As I said, $41 million Series B. Keeping an eye on these guys as per usual. Anyway, huge week this week for AI investments. I'm sure that trend's going to continue to happen over the near future. Anyway, so I'll be back next week with a wrap-up of the funding. Thanks.